So this is the agenda for the last info session then. Simply 20 tips in 20 minutes. You will get 20 valuable tips in 20 super fast minutes. You will, through the presentation, you will get some videos and you will see some pictures so that you get an insight of where to find the things that I talk about. So let's go. The first one, the documentation platform. We will include the link with today's recording when you receive the email. So on the documentation platform, you find our online manual. And in the future, you will also find our release notes. So on here, you can either use the search function at the top right or explore our categories on the left. Number 2, here are some tips on keyboard shortcuts. So when you receive the recording, take a screenshot or write down the ones you want to use more. All function with keyboard shortcuts. If there is a shortcut to a function in ExFlow, you can see it in the text when you hover over the button or function. So for example, in this example, you can see that it says Control D at the end. Some of these shortcuts are actual ExFlow shortcuts and some are standard shortcuts for Business Central or so on. For example, F8, copy from a column above. A tip that's very useful that not many know is if you select more documents in the import journal, for example, and then push Control I, then you download a zip file with all them collected in one. The next tip is bookmarks. So if you don't work in a like accounting view, then you might want to add some bookmarks at the top for easy access on the first page. So you bookmark as simple as checking the bookmark mark, as you can see up here on the right. Number 4, ExFlow reports. So we have many reports to offer. There are 3 different categories: documents, users, and approval rules. So if you hover over the names, you will receive a brief explanation of what they entail. And one of them that is very popular is the ExFlow user replacements report. So with this one, you can choose individual users or all users. You can select the date to view current or past replacers. Then you can decide whether you want to preview or create an external file as seen here. We offer formats like Word, PDF, and Excel. And in Excel, you can choose to include a layout or only data, as you can see soon here. Other popular reports are, for example, ExFlow document approval history, which displays posted documents with approval groups and approvers, and ExFlow approval rules, which is a detailed view with all approval rules per company. You can also use filters such as vendors or dimension values. You can click on show members in approval groups to include the detailed information of that as well. The next one, with block documents, you can block a document from being created or posted in this column. Perhaps you want to leave some documents and then batch create the rest, and this is useful. In that case, you use block document from creation. If you use the other one, posting, then you will see here an error message in the approval status, and you take it away by going to the card and leave this one blank. You can also set this setting per vendor in the ExFlow Advanced Vendor option. Number 6, when you are working in the import journal or approval status, for example, you can choose several documents by marking the ones you want and then create or post. This in addition to the option of creating or posting one or all documents. So when you are in, for example, here, approval status, you choose the ones you want and then you click that you want to post it. Then you can either use a keyboard shortcut or the action button and click on post. And this way you only post the ones you have marked, or in the import journal. If you choose the ones you want and then click that you want to create the invoice, you only create the ones that you have marked. In the import journal, there's a function called save coding to vendor. So if you have a vendor with reoccurring invoices that share the same accounting details, then you can use this button to create a purchase code, as seen here. And that code is directly saved on the vendor card. So it's quick and convenient to set up, because it goes super fast. And then in the import journal, to add this, you position yourself on the relevant line, then you go to actions and select save coding to vendor. And in the window that appears, you can add and remove details if you want to add something, for example, like a deferral code or anything like that. And then you see the code here on the vendor card. So once specified here on the vendor card, it means that whenever you receive a document from this vendor, the coding details from this purchase code will create lines automatically when a document arrives from this vendor. You can personalize your view in the Business Central. So when you start working with Business Central, it's standardized. So on the home page, you can take away boxes, as seen here, for example. You can move and change order of some things. And in the import journal, you can personalize, and then you can, for example, drag a column in the order that you want them. You can take away and you can add fields, for example. So remember to always push the done button up on the right when you are done and when you're finished. So this way you can bring up the elements you are most interested in and work with the most, for example. Number 9, highlight rejected and overdue documents. So for you, or for those of you who want an easier way to identify whether a document has been rejected or has expired, there is a setting for approval status. You can have this setting for rejected or expired documents. And what the setting does is that if it's rejected or expired, then, for example, then the line will highlight in red. So you can configure this setting under ExFlow Setup. You scroll down to Escalation, and then you tick highlight rejected and overdue documents. And then in the box under that, you set the number of overdue days before highlight. So that one is if you want it to be highlighted if it's overdue. So in this example, for example, you can see that the line will be red 5 days before the expiration date, for example. We are halfway. Number 10. We have a function called always propose new approvers. So approval rules and dynamic approval rules allows ExFlow to automatically identify and apply approval rules or a dynamic approval flow for documents that have been modified by any user in ExFlow Web. So with this setting, the changes will be done automatically. So an example of this regarding approval rules is, let's say that you have rules that are driven by dimensions. So let's say that you have departments as dimensions. So if the user have the dimension administration on the invoice, let's say, that you sent to them, and if they change the dimension to sales and approve the document, then the logic from this setting will be that a new approval rule will be set automatically if there is a match better suited to another approval rule if they change that dimension. So you find that in ExFlow Setup and then under Approval. And then we have minimum number of approvers. So you can set a setting that specifies that you can create a check to verify the minimum number of approvers that is reached on a document when you create it, as well as a check where you have the minimum number of approvers after the final approver in the web has approved the document. So the settings are made in ExFlow Setup, and you have to set 3 settings for those both checks. So you start by specifying the number of required approvers under documentation posting check. And then you also go to approval to check the option and add the minimum number of approvers, for example, 2. And this activates the control in the web for the users. And then you can also check the control for the import journal under document creation check. And that one is called check minimum number of approvers. On the web here, for example, if there aren't enough approvers, you will get a message saying that you need to add a number of approvers. And in the import journal here, you will get a message saying that it is not enough approvers, so you have to add them. Number 12, ExFlow purchase codes. So you can automate your work related to assigning accounts or items or types to lines using a purchase code. And this eliminates the need to repeat the same task over and over and over again, meaning that you have more time for other activities. Purchase codes can be linked to a vendor, a reference, ExFlow contracts, or ExFlow setting. And an example is if you create a purchase code assigned to a vendor where you frequently receive reoccurring invoices, as shown earlier, then you can use this to save some time. And when you import an invoice, you can trigger ExFlow to apply these purchase codes automatically. On the purchase code, you can split lines by percentages, fixed amounts, dimensions. You can add deferral codes and more. And yeah, use the save coding to vendor as mentioned earlier if you want to add it directly on the vendor, for example. And then we have ExFlow reference codes. Related reference values is the tip in this one, for example. So you use ExFlow reference to apply logic to invoices that you import with a reference. And this is used to trigger a specific action when you import a document. So with a reference, you can trigger approvers, vendors, dimensions, accounts on lines, and much more. And a reference can be someone's name, phone number. It can be variations in spelling, if someone spells the name wrong, for example, or anything else. So the tip for ExFlow references is related for example when vendors spell names differently or incorrectly. And this allows you to manage the matching anyway. So under ExFlow reference codes, you can on the right add related reference values on the chosen line, or you can go into the card and add the values as well. And then we have ExFlow denying coding rules. So there are 3 different branches of coding rules. One of them is denying coding rules. And with denying coding rules, you can apply them to a specific user or a group. And what you do with this is simply specify what the user is not allowed to do. So it involves a combination of values that the user is not permitted to use, for example. So let's say that the user is not allowed to leave a dimension blank if they use a certain account, or the user are not allowed to approve a predefined account if you send out a predefined account. And this can also be used to set, for example, if you leave a specific dimension blank for certain amounts and so on. So you can also specify if it's for a specific document, such an invoice, or for all kinds of documents. And you can set a rule on the coding that if it should only be for the final approver and so forth. So you can also have multiple denying coding rules per company. In this example here, a deferral date must not be left blank if a deferral code is filled in. So you can see here that this is for all kinds of documents. We have a validation message, and then you set what they're not allowed to do. So here on the web, we have a code, but we don't have a date. So if we try to approve this one, then you get the message that you self-write that will pop up for the users, telling them what they should do, for example. So in this case, the approver will not be able to approve the document until they have entered a date. Number 15, ExFlow contracts. So with ExFlow contracts, you can have full control over reoccurring documents such as leases, telephone bills, rental products, and more. And you set up the contract according to the external terms. And if there is a deviation, you receive a warning message when you import the document in the import journal. You can also automate the workflow with these invoices. So for example, if everything aligns, a setting can automatically approve these invoices without the need for approval. You don't have to send them out then to your approvers, and you can even set a setting for direct posting. So the document can go all the way through the process without having to be approved or verified and so on. And this way you can have complete control and you can automate your processes and so on. If you need to have someone to approve what you have set up, to double check what you have set up or so on, you can use ExFlow Omni Approval. And then another BC user can approve the contract before you start using it. This year we released a lot of new features, and some of them are that you can have a detailed view of creation and viewing of the invoice periods. You can modify amounts per invoice period. You can view missed periods in a list. It's clear statistics in the fact box. You can set tolerances on either amount or percentages, and we have self-billing and more. Number 16, the discussion panel. You have access to the discussion panel in many places in ExFlow. You can send direct messages by tagging individuals. You can set up notifications so that the receiver receive an email when being tagged. You can also set up notifications in Business Central if you want to have a notification there if someone sends directly to you. You can use the discussion panel in the import journal, in approval status, in ExFlow search document, and in other searches, for example. And the places that have the discussion panel are always found in the fact box on the right. Also worth knowing is that if you send someone, or if you tag someone directly and you're in the import journal, and if that one is not a user in Business Central, they cannot see the comment until you have created a document. If you send a comment to someone who is a BC user or a Business Central user, then they can see the message in Business Central before the document is created. And then we have ExFlow Approval Status Report. The this ExFlow report displays all documents awaiting approval and not yet posted. You can use filters to select specific periods and document statuses. You also have the option to create a journal through this report that includes the lines from the filter documents. And this can be used to post costs in the correct month and reverse them in the following month if the document is not approved and posted in the correct period. If you want more information, go to our online manual. Number 18, reminders. So in addition to scheduled jobs, you can send reminders for individual documents or several selected documents. The most common practice is that you have a job set up that sends reminder once a day automatically in the background, notifying users that they have pending documents to approve. And beyond this scheduled job, you have the ability to send additional reminders. So for example, in the approval status, you can send a reminder for a single document, and then you will receive, or they will receive an email with the information. In the approval status, you can choose multiple or all rows, and then the current approvers will receive an email. And if the approvers will have several lines in several documents that they need to approve, all of them is summarized in one email. You can also go to the user card in ExFlow user and send a reminder per user. And if you do that, the user will receive an email summarizing all of the documents that are active and ready for approval in one email. Number 19, replacers. There are two ways to add replacers. Either you can go through ExFlow in Navision or Business Central, or you can replace your users can add replacers on the web. When you do it in Business Central, you add it on the user card as seen here. You can choose all companies or some companies. You add who should be the replacer, and then you set dates, and then you push add replacer. If someone wants to do it themselves on the web, they can do it from the first page on the little icon here, or they can go through settings and do it. Same practice there. They add all the same details that you did in Business Central, and they can also see here the ones that they are replacing at the moment. While someone is a replacer, both the replacer and the original user will be able to approve the documents. However, only one of them needs to approve the document as well. So then the last tip here, it includes a few suggestions related to automation. There are many things that you can do with all the available functions. And here are a few settings that can help you even more. So for you who use ExFlow data capture, previously named Resoft, we have two tips. The first one is lock online learning. You can add this or tick this one if you're an admin. So this is useful to check if several users interpret invoices, for example. So when you tick this box, no one else can teach the system anything else from that point on that vendor. So it locks new interpretations until you uncheck it again. And then you also have allow complete documents to bypass verifications in ExFlow data capture. So if everything is green, the document will automatically move into ExFlow in Navision or Business Central, meaning that you don't have to go through the process of checking those documents before pushing OK on them and so on. In ExFlow, under ExFlow setup, there is something called background processing. The first two here are jobs that is set up if you tick them. One is that it verifies documents automatically. The other one is if it verifies documents, but also if no changes have been done on the web, then the document will be posted automatically as well. And then you also have verify changes done automatically on that one. That one runs automatically all the time. And it simply means that if no changes are made on the web by your users, then the document will automatically be marked with the status ready to be posted, meaning that you don't have to verify all the documents manually. There's also one last one, automatically create documents, and that's for the import journal. So you can read more about that one in the manual. And then we have automatically create ExFlow reference in ExFlow setup. So every time that you create a new ExFlow user, a new ExFlow reference will be created automatically connected to that user. And then we also have on the vendor card, automatically create document and automatically post document, and read more about that in the manual as well.